You stopped here yesterday and strolled through the gardens, I believe, and did the tiptoeing, so, yep, so we won't do that again. But you came out here, well, just to take a quick second look at these, but also wanted to give you a quick look at the experimental farm, a farm here in the middle of our city. So I'll just give you a quick look at that as well while we're here. We have a tulip festival because during World War II, the Dutch royal family came from a shelter. But while here in 1943, the Dutch Princess Juliana gave birth to her third daughter. But there's a problem. Dutch law says that unless you're born on Dutch soil, you can never ascend the throne. Uh-oh, what to do? This is not Dutch soil. So Canada's politicians got to the rescue, and they were smart back then. On the day of that child's birth in January 1943, they declared her hospital room to be Dutch territory. And they flew the Dutch flag over Parliament Hill. The only time in our history that a foreign flag is flown there. See the statue on your right, the man with the two hats? I'll get back to that, okay? Anyway, in 1946, at the end of the war, the Dutch royal family, in recognition of Canada's smart politicians, and to say thank you for the role that Canadian troops played in the liberation of Holland, they sent the Canadian government 20,000 tulip bulbs. We're going straight through these. They're so well received, they've been done every year since then, including this year. In 1952, the famous Canadian photographer Yusuf Karsh, the brothers Malak and Yusuf Karsh, he suggested a tulip festival. In 2002, Princess Marguerite, whose birth caused it all here in 1943, came back to help us celebrate her 50th tulip anniversary. Among her many official duties was the unveiling of that statue. One of those hats represents Holland, one represents Canada. The statue represents the strong ties that exist between the two countries. There's been also a proposal to build a Dutch windmill someplace in the Dallas Lake area there. But this being a government town, that's going to take some time. I think we'll get it, but it's going to take some time. You and I won't be around to see it. Okay, folks, now Jason's taking it here. Now, once you go through these lights, we are on a 900-acre farm here in the middle of the city. From now on, we go to the top of this hill, look to the horizon, if you can see the horizon, and all you'll see are office towers and high-rise apartments. We are very, very much in the middle of Ottawa. Right here on either side of the road is a tree farm. Many of these trees are not native here, but they're here so the scientists have started their growth and development under our climate and soil conditions. But 100 scientists work here year-round, working primarily with crops. We're going to the right, Jason. Developing more productive crops, quicker ripening, great in our short growing season, and more disease resistant. Straight ahead of you are the ornamental gardens. Nothing much there now, kind of nice and green, of course, but during July and August, that's just a splash of color. Very popular for wedding parties, pictures in there. It is terribly beautiful, really, really is. Even for a guy like me. Sometimes at bridal parties forget that the sprinklers in there are automated. Somebody in the party has forgotten to inform the officials about that kind of stuff, you know. So these buildings all around are used by farm officials. As I said, about 100 scientists and their entourage work here, of course. There's a big barn-like building coming up. Used to be a barn, of course, but now it's an agricultural museum. And just today, the exhibition opened here is called "The Science We Eat." It's the steps that are taken by large-scale industries and by smaller operations to preserve food and make it more attractive, like why do apples shine, and that kind of thing. And folks, from this point on, but look on the horizon, all you see is urban development. We are very much in Ottawa, in the city of Ottawa. On either side of the road, these farm fields are in reality giant outdoor laboratories. Now, the planting season hasn't quite started here yet. It's been a cool, wet spring. But in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to see small plots of land divided off, so to speak, and they are obviously growing some kind of crop there very, very deliberately, measuring productivity, possibly measuring, as I said, the time it takes to ripen, and so on and so on. Various crop blends, etc. Coming ahead on the right-hand side, you'll see maybe a little more evidence of that, even though it really hasn't started yet. See the little flags there and so on. There'll be much more predominant in a couple of weeks' time. It was on this farm in 1903 that they developed marquee wheat. Out in the prairies, they call it Marquis wheat. That quick ripening wheat that led to Canada's wheat growers being the biggest in the world in the 1920s. bigger in fact than the next two wheat-producing countries combined. Of course, as typical Canadians, we don't normally know that. And if we do, we kind of keep it quiet. Don't want to brag, you know. Yeah. Marquee wheat. If you drive to Niagara Falls tomorrow down Highway 416 along Highway 401, the crops you see growing in the farmers' fields are crops that would have been developed here a generation or two ago. Soybeans, corn, various grains, and so on. The farm is a much more active place than one would think at first glance, you know. Open to the public all day long, all year long as well. We're going to turn right, Jason, and right again. 900 acres, takes up a lot of room here. And every once in a while, some developer floats a proposal to section off part of the farm and develop it. And every time that happens, the outcry has been so loud that it's been quietly dropped, or quickly dropped, you know. But this land, it must be terribly, terribly valuable. Founded by the federal government in the 1880s. And of course, at that time, Ottawa was nowhere near here. Nowhere near here. In fact, in just a second, we'll be beside the Ottawa Civic Hospital. Or more accurately, the Civic Campus of the Ottawa Hospital. Opened in 1924. Why here? It was out in the quiet countryside. And so sick patients could more quickly possibly recover in the quiet country air, you see? 1924. The farm was opened in the 1880s. So another 25, 30 years later, this is still rural countryside here. And of course, it is in this civic campus of the Ottawa Hospital that the Dutch baby was born in January 1943, whose birth gave us our Tulip Festival. Her room is still indicated with a plaque on the outside. Yep. Pierre Trudeau, two of his three sons were born here in the Ottawa Civic Hospital. I'm sorry, all three were born here in this hospital, two of them on separate Christmas days. Yeah, two of his three boys. And you're not going to read this anywhere, and nobody really cares about it either, but our two children are born here as well. I joined Pierre Trudeau. The original building, folks, is the red brick with the concrete columns on the second floor. That's the original building. 1924. And this is the site today, of course, of the famous Ottawa University Heart Institute. Dr. Wilbur Keon, you may have heard that name. He's now retired. This is a building with the University of Ottawa, of course, medical research and so on. For the third or fourth time on your right-hand side, the buildings of the the Central Experimental Farm. And just at these lights, we're not going to stop, of course, but on your right-hand side, you'll see an observatory with the green roof here. That functioned as an observatory, well used, of course, but as the city of Ottawa grew up out and around here, the lights of the city rendered the telescope less than ideal, and so they closed it down. Today, that building is used by geologists who study earthquakes. Ottawa lies in an earthquake-prone area. Read in the paper, now that may not be accurate because papers are not necessarily reliable sources, but I read in just, what's the date? It's Monday, so maybe Thursday or Friday last week, that here since 1996, we have had 127 earthquake tremors here in Ottawa. Now most of them are so minor we don't even feel them. They can only be detected by scientific instruments and so on. But in maybe 2000, around the year 2000, we had a kind of a major in the sense you could certainly hear it. I was working in my backyard that afternoon, and I thought there was a plane flying low overhead. A loud noise, you know, and things kind of shook a bit and so on. I wasn't scared though. I figured under the bed was good enough. We're going to go right here. When you come back to Ottawa for a visit, you turn to your left right here, you find yourselves in Little Italy. In fact, as Jason turns to the right, you can look to that. You look front and see a portion of that big circular, or semi-circular thing, Little Italy. So homemade pasta and good red wine in abundance there. Lovely restaurants. Sorry?
Go back down the canal?
Yeah. Right, couldn't.
I paid no attention at all, folks, to that body of water you see there head to your left. Minutes ago as you drove out here. That's Dow's Lake. It's a man-made lake.
What's Studebaker?
Where?
Got cars on.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't get a good look at it, I'm not sure. All I know is it's not mine. Yeah, Dow's Lake is a man-made lake built by the canal builders in the 1820s to flood the huge swamp that used to be here. And they wanted to get rid of the swamp because many of the workers, well, they weren't dying, although some did, but not many were dying, but many were falling sick with what they called back then swamp fever. As you travel along here, folks, look at the water level on your right-hand side, and then look at the tulip beds on your far left. What's higher, the water on your right or those tulip beds over there on your left? I'd say the water, yeah. This is the old dam, you see, thrown up by the canal builders over 200 years ago to keep the water here, flood the swamp. They couldn't drain it, it was too low lying. That's why they got rid of the big swamp that was here, thereby cutting down on swamp fever. Today, we think it was malaria, brought here by British soldiers coming from our tropical postings. And of course, the swamps played a part, because that's where the mosquitoes bred by the billions spread the disease from person to person, see. And Colonel John By, in charge of the project, had very quickly fallen behind schedule. And of course, it got way over budget. And he could not afford work stoppages. It just worsened his woes. And so he had to do something to cut down on swamp fever. And here is what he did. He flooded the swamp. There are literally thousands of swampy areas either in Kingston, if you are familiar at all with Eastern Ontario. The Canadian Shield stretches a kind of a finger down into almost toward Kingston. And it's rugged, swampy, forbidding countryside. And right through that type of land that Colonel By engineered his canal. And across Dow's Lake, you can see the canal continuing now on its way to Kingston. And we get the snow plowed off Dow's Lake. We can skate from here all the way back downtown where we're now going. Did I say it was the world's largest outdoor skating rink? Yes, I did. The building over there to your far right across Dow's Lake are the buildings of Carleton University. Some of you may have daughters, sons, nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters. You had gone there yourself. The boating season here in Ontario opens, well, normally it opens this weekend. But I think last summer the national government, by the way, the canal is now operated by Parks Canada. And I think Parks Canada, in a cost-cutting measure, every turn is cost-cutting, but they were going to shorten the boating season here and increase lot fees, etc. But once again, they met with such resistance that the idea, I think, was abandoned. But I'm not so sure, so I'm not going to say that the boating season opens today or this weekend, although normally it does. And it may. I just haven't kept up with the latest developments on that initiative to shorten the boating season. To take your boat, well, depending on the size of the boat as well, of course, but to take an average-sized boat all the way from Kingston to Ottawa, or Ottawa to Kingston, costs in the neighborhood of $500–600 to go through the 47 locks that exist between here in Kingston. As I said earlier, the canal is mainly, primarily a series of lakes and rivers. Join us on 47 locks. The geography of the area, if this is Ottawa, right over to my right, your left, and this is Kingston over here, then to go from Ottawa to Kingston, you kind of go up like that, and then halfway to Kingston, you start going downhill. And so the canal has to make that step up and down into Lake Ontario.
It must be open. Here comes that first boat.
Well, there we are. That's the first one I've seen. Lots of open. First boat I've seen.
He's clipping right along too, so you can tell he's not a canal person, right?
He does, yeah. Indeed. That yellow building on your left is the Aberdeen Pavilion. They had their first livestock exhibition here, folks, in 1868. And they follow that tradition every year until 2 years ago. Of course, in later years, the livestock shows are well overshadowed by the midway rides and all the other circus and the other castle. It's a heritage structure. One of the Stanley Cups that the Ottawa Senators won way back 1920s was won in that building. Today, they're building a new Lansdowne Park further south of the city, out in the country where there's more room. Just as this park was established in 1868 because it was out of the city where there's more room. History repeats itself. We've got about 1 million people here in Ottawa. You may have seen on the sign already. I think it may be 900,000 or thereabouts. Just rounded off as 1 million. Over in Gatineau, Quebec, we have about 300,000 people. Not quite that many, maybe 250,000. So the population, both cities combined, is roughly 1.5 million, maybe not quite. By the way, the original canal did not look like what you're looking at now on your right-hand side. There were no stone walls, no nice ladies walking their dogs, no bicyclists, no pathways, of course. It was simply an open ditch through open countryside. Nothing else around here, even at this point. The stone walls came in about 100 years ago, in the late early 1900s. During the 1930s, there was a proposal made to close the canal. In the Depression years, they felt we couldn't afford to keep it open. Today, it's a World Heritage Site. Although it's hard, you'd be hard-pressed to find a sign telling you that. Have you noticed when you're in Ottawa, in your travels, a sign saying this is a World Heritage Site?
Yeah, we were on the boat last night. I
You saw it, good thing. Okay. We try to keep it low key, you know. We don't want people knowing that, you know.
want to brag.
No. I will never forget driving out west with the children about 20 years ago or so, and we're going to British Columbia, and we're approaching Craigielachi, BC, where the famous, the last spike was pounded home, you know. And I knew it was coming. I wanted to see it. Think I could find it? I'm going to turn left here, Jason. We didn't find it finally, but you know, had it been in the States, there'd be flags flying, there'd have been, you know, like bugles drumming and everything. It was incredible. Had I not been looking for it, I would have never found it. If you've traveled to Florida along the East Coast, you must be familiar with what's that one south of the border? That park, you know, truck stop, whatever it is. And so for miles and miles and miles, for hours, right, Jason? Sorry. Before you get there, you know, there's a stop at south of the border. It's incredible, you know. Like we don't do any of that kind of stuff. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. We're staying at Curb Lane, Jason, and see that black car's parked? Maybe kind of behind it, or maybe just ahead of this room. We'll stop there maybe for a brief moment. I want to talk more about the building on your left-hand side, the Museum of Nature. Museum of Nature. When this building opened in 1912, this is good, Jake's made in here. Thank you. When this building opened in 1912 as the Victoria Memorial Museum, critics back then said it would never last as a museum. Why not? It was too far from Ottawa. People wouldn't take the time to ride out here in the horses and buggies to visit the museum. But they're wrong. It has survived. Today there's a Museum of Nature, a gold mine for Canada's next generation of geologists and scientists and so on. Dinosaur skeletons, prehistoric animals. On the third floor are creepy crawlies, live creepy crawlies of all variations. The big summer exhibit you've seen on buses around town, it's where are you glowing today? Here we glow again. That kind of thing, you see. It's bioluminescence, natural bioluminescence, like fireflies, that kind of thing. 90% of all the world's bioluminescent creatures live in deep water. But that's a huge exhibition on this summer, and it's, I haven't seen it yet, but it's what I read about it is terribly interesting, because of course it's a part of the world underwater that I've never seen, and probably not too many of you either, you know. But by the way, folks, when the Centre Block of Parliament burned down in 1916, it took them 4 years to rebuild it. And so during those 4 years, Canada's government met right here. So it's the Wilfrid Laurier, who died in 1919, his body was laid in state here, not in the Centre Block, because of course the Centre Block hadn't been rebuilt yet. And so his state funeral was held in this building here, 1919. They say he haunts this building. because he's the only Canadian Prime Minister who did not rest in state on, or lay in state on Parliament Hill. However, because of that, or in spite of that, this museum is open to children for the birthday parties. They can even have sleepovers here. You can sleep with the ghosts and the dinosaur skeletons and all the other natural phenomena. It's in my mind, this is an underrated building. It's not big on the tourist itinerary, and yet it's fascinating. Just the building itself, and the time it took them to build it, and the trouble they had with it, because this is very clay, very unstable land right around here, and they had an awful time getting that building built. In fact, they had a great big tower built on this side of it, and they built it against the architect insisted on it against the contractor's advice. Finished in 1912. By 1920, had to tear the tower down. And when they had a huge renovation project here about 5-6 years ago, they didn't rebuild the tower, but they did something of a glass thing that you can see as we look back, as you go down the road here, that stands today where the tower would have been. You see. Well, of course, today we have more techniques at our disposal than we did back then. Thanks, Jason. Folks, to the left-hand side, also, see that white awning? The Embassy of Iraq. A white awning. To your left, Embassy of Iraq. Get the glimpse of the white tower, that kind of a rectangular square thing there?
Yeah.
This part of Elgin Street, named after Lord Elgin, governor of the colony of Canada in the 1840s. This is a trendy part of the city, one of them. Open-air cafes and restaurants and that kind of thing. When the Ottawa Senators win the Stanley Cup, this is where people, they close off this street. They call it the Sens Mile. Ottawa Senators winning the Stanley Cup, so be a joke. Everybody laughed, though. I guess you're Ottawa Senators fans, eh? It's bad being a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. By the way, the Stanley Cup belongs in Ottawa. And not just because the Senators should win it. I'll get back to that. Remind me, please. Remind me back to that. Yeah, here's some of the outdoor cafes here already. It's only 9 or 10 o'clock in there. One of the older steakhouses in Ottawa, coming up on your right-hand side. Still a very nice restaurant. They make very good steaks available. They should pay me to say that, but they don't. I don't remember. That's right. Here it is on your right-hand side. L Steakhouse. Right here. Al Sakely is the owner's name, or was the owner's name. Not sure who owns it now. Maybe he still does. I don't know. Straight ahead of you, as far as the eye can see, you can pick out the National War Memorial. You're headed straight to it. Inaugurated in 1939 by King George VI. And folks, you can see right here in this part of Elgin Street, this is a very ordinary two-lane city street. But ahead of you, through the next set of lights or so, Elgin Street has widened into a big, wide boulevard, eh? The French urban planner, who was brought in the 1930s to design such a change, came from Paris. We have our very own Champs-Élysées. Ottawa's downtown train station. This French urban planner recommended we close it. Get those dusty, dirty locomotives out of the downtown part of the city. We did close it 30 years later, 1966, and moved the station to where it is now, out in the eastern and southeastern part of the city. All part of a program of beautifying downtown Ottawa, make it worthy of the name Capital City. So from this point on, we are on a beautiful wide section of Elgin Street. To your right-hand side, ahead of you, behind the Human Rights Monument, is the old Ottawa Teachers College, where they trained teachers until the 1970s. Not that long ago. But Ottawa University took it over. It's now part of our City Hall, which you can catch a glimpse of kind of down there between all those trees, there to your right hand. So the green windows, that's our City Hall, attached to the old Ottawa Teachers College. This big building on your right here is our provincial courthouse. To your left-hand side, a yellow brick house with a green in front. This is the Grant House, built and lived in by James Grant, Johnny McDonald's personal physician. Going to be a restaurant now. Ahead to your right-hand side, Confederation Park. It used to be a block of shops and stores and houses till the 1930s, torn down to make way then for a novel concept, a downtown green space. This huge monument right here, thank you Jason, a tribute to Canada's native Canadians and the role they played in our military efforts around the world. Confederation Park. William Lyon Mackenzie King, Canada's longest-serving Prime Minister. You know him and heard the name, of course. You know, of course, the relationship between him and his mother. No? Yeah, very strange relationship. When she came into Ottawa to live with her Willie, the last years of her life, the apartment building she lived in stood right there, that corner, where those trees are now. That building, along with every other building in there, was torn down, as I said earlier, in the 1930s to make way for this park we now see here. Thank you, Jason. Even the Lord Elgin Hotel to your left dates from 1941. National Arts Centre, ahead to your right-hand side, the premier theatre arts venue. Nana Scurry was there just a month ago. On your left, the British High Commission. That's the British flag flying. And now, behind the boarding in front, the National War Memorial. The contractors here are reinforcing the base of the memorial. Hopefully this thing's will be gone by July 1st. Who knows? Over to your right, the old downtown train station, closed in 1966, and ahead of you, the Chevrolet Hotel, one of Canada's famous railroad hotels, built by the Grand Trunk Railroad about 100 years ago. The hotel and the station both opened in 1912, the same year as the museum back there, eh? The hotel is still open, the station closed in 1966. Here, folks, on your right-hand side, the seat of our national government. This is where it happens. This is the East Block, closest to you. Ahead in the distance, under all a white shroud, is the West Block. These buildings house committee rooms, meeting areas, that kind of stuff. The actual business of government takes place in the Center Block, which you'll see as we go through the red light, or not, as we go through when the red light becomes green. How many have seen the movie The King's Speech? The King's Speech, one of my favorite movies. I took my in-laws to see that 3 or 4 years ago. On the way home, they told me that, this little story, a Sunday morning in post-war London, my mother-in-law had my wife out for a stroll. She was an infant. A big state car pulled up, driver on the right-hand side, opened the door, and as he went to the back door and opened it, he said to my mother-in-law, "The lady would like to see your baby." The lady was Queen Mary, who was profiled a bit in that film, in that movie, you know. Queen Mary. Yeah. My parents, my in-laws, had never told my wife or her siblings that story. When I told my wife, she said, "I knew it was a princess." My parents told me. Folks, on your left is the PMO, the Prime Minister's office. On your right, Parliament Hill. Here's the Center Block, with the Peace Tower, of course. To the left of the Peace Tower are the Senate chambers. House of Commons. I'll say it again. To the left of the Peace Tower is House of Commons. To the right, the Senate chambers. And this is where the government business takes place here in Canada. In the Center Block of Parliament. You'd better, I think, Jason, went ahead through the lights. More buses stop up there than right here. One of the things I like about this place here, folks, is that if you and I wanted to play a game of football right now, we go there and do that.
It's full the whole way down, Terry.
It is, it don't?
Well, it looks like it's full the whole way down.
All the way down? Yeah.
You should come back to it.
You say you could come back to it?
No, I mean if you want to come back, but it's full the whole way down to the other light.
Yeah, okay. We'll come back then. Because this is, I'd like to have you get off here and take some pictures and so on. Although your hotel is maybe 3 blocks down and now behind us, so it's within walking distance, obviously. And if you do feel like walking up here, please come. The closer you get to it, the more impressive it is.
What are they in line for? We're in the government building today.
Oh, look at the line. You're right. Wow. Yeah.
I call it the Congo.
The what building?
Congo.
See the flame burning there at the base of the walkway? That was the first official act of our 100th birthday in 1967. Prime Minister Elizabeth Pearson lit that flame. And the American Embassy burned over. We have a new one now. We can't figure out. Since 1999, we've been trying to figure out what to do with that building.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it sits empty.
Which one's popular here?
Oh, can we stop this for a bit? I'll tell a story or two. Thanks, Jason. You're a good man. Folks, on your left-hand side, this is the Senate building. Many of our senators have their offices there. There used to be a hotel on this site, the Victoria Hotel. That's where the Prince of Wales stayed, the then Prince of Wales, when he came in 1860 to lay the cornerstone of the cinder block. 1860. The cinder block burned down in 1916. So in 1920, when the then Prince of Wales came here to lay the same cornerstone on the same date, September 16th, that second Prince of Wales became Edward VII after the death of his mother in 1901, Queen Victoria. He is reported to have said at one point, "I don't mind worshipping an eternal father, but it seems I have an eternal mother," because Queen Victoria reigned for a huge number of years. The current Queen Elizabeth will have to reign, what, 3 or 4 more years, I guess, before she reaches that record. And the current Prince of Wales is facing the same conundrum. In fact, just on the CBC radio this morning, they were interviewing people, do you think we should pass over or skip a generation? No? Go straight to King William. He's such a nice young man, eh? Anyway, that's the debate. So far. Parliament is now sitting, folks, maybe not today on a holiday Monday, but Parliament's in session now. Tours of the cinder block are available free of charge, last about 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so, and very, very interesting, of course. House of Commons, 308 people we elect to go there and represent us. Next election, or until 2015, it'll be 338. We're creating 30 new ridings because of our increased population and so on. We have one member of Parliament representing roughly 100,000 Canadians. Roughly. So as Canada's population increases, we have increased MP representation. By the way, folks, all these buildings are under extreme renovation. The cinder block is so decrepit that they're speeding up its renovation. When they finish the West Block, they're going to go directly to the cinder block. They're going to close it for 10 years. 10 years. The House of Commons will meet here in the cinder block, in the West Block. The Senate are going to go to the old train station. It's been a government conference center for the last number of years. But for the next 10 years, and it's going to happen this year, I think, it'll be the Senate chambers. Do you really think they'll die out? Maybe they should. I'm not going to go there, but I think we'll have them for a while. 105 of them, appointed by the Prime Minister, as you know, and they served since 75 years of age. Some, I'm sure, do good work. The ones who don't get into the big newspapers, and we read about them and so on and so on. But anyway, there they are. It all takes place right here. The only time you and I cannot enjoy those lawns are when there's a ceremony booked, like the changing of the guard that takes place every summer morning, July and August, up there on the east side of the lawn. See, 10 to 10:30. There's no guard to change; it's all imaginary. When the Queen was here as a young queen in 1959 for an extended stay in Canada, some people felt she was getting homesick. So what to do? Well, have a change in the guard ceremony, like she would have seen at Buckingham Palace. And so they did. I never found out whether the Queen enjoyed it or not. She probably did. Everybody else did, though, for sure. And so since then, they've had it here every summer. The Americans love it. They march up here on to Parliament Hill. Then they kind of march around in the grass here for half an hour or so, and they do the military thing. Then they march off, back down to the Bureau Hall where they come from, and everybody's happy. The university kids in the militia take part in it. The Governor General's Foot Guards and the Montreal Grenadier Guards. And there are some there are some lifetime military people involved, but the majority of the guards are university students who belong to the Army Reserves and that kind of thing, you see. And so on. I love Parliament Hill. This is just a lovely, all this neo-Gothic architecture and so on. Built back in the East Block now behind you, and the West Block were completed in 1865. When it was announced, they could maintain an average temperature in the wintertime of 10 degrees Celsius. At that time, back then, that was considered good enough you could work in that. 10 degrees Celsius. Almost freezing. These two buildings, by the way, the East and West Blocks, are old. Like, their walls hold the roof up. There's no inner skeleton, no inner steel skeleton. The cinder block, newer now since 1920, it does have that inner steel structure, and so the stone walls don't perform the same vital function as do the walls of the east and west block. You see. The Peace Tower is open to the public. You can take an elevator to the top for a bird's eye view of downtown Ottawa. Getting into the center block since 2001, of course, is like going through airport security. Before that, you could just wander in and talking to a tourist like you here several years ago, and he said he came back to Ottawa as an adult because he left here when he was 12 years old. His family moved someplace else, and he just came down for old time's sake. And he wandered into the center block. This is maybe in 1995, whatever it was. The only person who spoke to him was a guard who said hello. Or not a guard. Yeah, the hill has its own security. By the way, you'll see Mounties on the hill. Never see Ottawa City Police or provincial police. See? That's because this is federal territory, and so it's Mountie territory. And so the city police will go on there only if the Mounties invite them on. Some kind of crisis, whatever the case may be. Otherwise, they're never there. And the Mounties would never, ever go into the center block, maintaining the separation between those who enforce the law and those who make it, you see. The house has its own security service. Yeah, stuff like that I find kind of neat, you know. Yeah, for sure, for sure. By the way, folks, to your left, kind of behind the Victoria building, or the Senate building, you see just a bit of an old building, 128 Wellington. That's an old bank. This was Canada's Wall Street in the 19 teens and 1920s. There were 13 banks along there. They had to tear 3 down to build the old American Embassy, opening in 1932. The only bank building still standing there, it was the Union Bank, I think it used to be called the Union Bank, and the manager would live above the bank itself on the second or third floors, you see. For some reason, they've left that building there. Of course, banks right across from the seat of power, you see. Now, ahead of you on the left-hand side, you see all this shrouding and so on. Every single one of these buildings are federal government office buildings under extensive renovation. The very first building is another bank, the Bank of Montreal. Established here a little over 100 years ago. It only closed as a bank maybe 20, 25 years ago, and has been empty for a long time, but now being renovated. And one of the proposals is going to use this building. This is where diplomats newly arrived in Canada will come to present their credentials to the Governor General, for example, that kind of thing. Got to do that somewhere. Why not here, eh?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we have long since outgrown the 3 government buildings, east, west, and center block. Long since. In fact, the Prime Minister's office back behind that brown sandstone building on the left-hand side, that was the first government building built off Parliament Hill here. 1884 it opened, the Langevin block. Still called that, named after Hector Langevin, one of Johnny MacDonald's Quebec lieutenants. Could have been Canada's next Prime Minister. After John A. died in the 1890s, but he got involved, very unusually, in a kind of a scandal thing, and it ruined his chances. So scandals in Canada's government, to me, Canada, or scandals in any government, Canada's or otherwise, are not new. Indeed. Okay, Jason, thanks for stopping here. We'll just stay in the curb lane and move along. We are surrounded by government buildings. The banks have moved now about 2 or 3 blocks to your left. In the building with the Canadian flag flying there, that's our National Press Gallery. In that building, 1968, Pierre Trudeau announced his candidacy for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada, right in there. This is the Wellington building, housing among many government entities the offices of the official opposition leader. Now that's Thomas Mulcair. Of course, he has his offices in the center block as well, but should be his office staff, the several hundred people, like the PMO, like the hundreds of people who look after his comings and goings as a government leader. Ahead to your right, this lovely castle-like structure is simply a government office building. Members of Parliament, some cabinet ministers. The current Minister of Agriculture, Jerry Ritz, has his offices in there. John Baird did, who became Foreign Affairs. His office is now in the Foreign Affairs building. And so on and so on. Opened in the early 1930s. To the left, across the street, is the Bank of Canada. The concrete structure in the middle is the original bank building, opened here in 1934. The two glass wings on either side have been added to the bank building as our economy has grown. You and I would not go there. It's not that kind of bank. As you know, this is where our interest rates and that kind of thing are set on a regular basis. Mark Kearney, our last governor of the Bank of Canada. Kearney, it's Mark or Stephen Poloz. One of the two. P-O-L-O-Z is his last name. To your right, folks, the Supreme Court of Canada. I love this building. The look of it, very, very impressive. The Supreme Court. Opened on this site. We've had the Supreme Court since 1875. The bank or the Supreme Court moved here in 1946. During the war, it was used for wartime purposes and so on. I apologize. That fence around the bank, around the court's lawns and so on. Been there for about 2 years. This is the second year. I've asked the contractors, or I've asked people on site what's going on. They won't tell me. Say it's confidential. And you know they seem to be sincere. I don't know. One guy said, "All I can tell you is it's infrastructure." So take that. 9 judges sit on the Supreme Court bench, 6 Anglophone, 3 Francophone. Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin, a lady for the first time in our history. There's a flag flying there, you can see it. There's another flagpole back to your right. There's no flag on it. That tells us, of course, that today, court is not sitting. If it was sitting today, there'd be another flag flying there, two Canadian flags. Some interesting cases come here to the Supreme Court. Here's one. A good friend of mine was a principal of a local high school. And about, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years ago. And one New Year's Eve, 4 kids in that school were on the way to a party, 2 boys, 2 girls. They were broadsided, their car was broadsided by an impaired driver. One young man was killed, 1 boy was killed. One young girl will never walk again. And wouldn't you know it, she was a gifted athlete, had just received a scholarship to attend an American college. Confined to a wheelchair the rest of her life. Her family sued the impaired driver, of course. They also sued the owners of the home where the impaired driver had been earlier that evening, saying they had a responsibility to keep him off the road. That question made its way here to the Supreme Court. Did they have that responsibility? Now, if you were a Supreme Court judge, what would you say? Well, the court said no. They did not. Primarily because they did not have a fiduciary responsibility. They weren't selling liquor. You see? Not running a bar. The court decided that for all they knew, he could have arrived at their home already impaired. He may have brought his own alcohol, that kind of thing. They stressed they were not giving carte blanche to house parties, people coming and going and so on. Not that at all. But in this particular case, they could not find the homeowners guilty of negligence or whatever the case was, and so the case was dismissed. Another one, Robert Latimer, the Saskatchewan farmer who killed his severely disabled daughter in the back of the farm because he loved her. The question made its way here on that case was his automatic 15-year sentence or whatever it was too severe, given the circumstance of the case? And the court found, no, it wasn't. And so he served out whatever years he had in Western Canada. So being a Supreme Court judge, you handle some pretty difficult questions, and I'm sure you would agree. The court hears about 100 cases a year, and they sit on average about 120, 140 days out of the year. At first blush, half the year, that's not much. Then, of course, their decisions are sometimes pages and pages long. It's a lot of heavy-duty academic research and so on. So I did not want to be a Supreme Court judge. By the way, folks, see the 2 statues on either side of the door there? The big thing goes, Truth and Justice. Those 2 statues were made by Walter Allward. I've heard that name. Walter Allward. Oh, yeah. He's the Canadian sculptor who created the Vimy Memorial in northern France. How many of you have seen that? Been to France, you've seen that memorial? Oh, yeah. If you ever go to Europe, you should make it a point to go there. The Vimy Memorial. It's one of those places where, as you approach it, that your holiday talk and, you're kind of having fun, it dies down, It's a very, very moving place. It really is. It going to Dachau and to the old concentration camp, It is not a funny place. Although it's a place you have to see almost, Anyway, the Vimy Memorial was created by Walter Allward. In the early 1900s, he was here in Ottawa creating a memorial to wherever this memorial, where he spent years and years. By the time he got back here, the political impetus for a Never the Seventh Memorial had disappeared. And so he didn't finish it. These two statues, which he had finished, were crated in not hidden away, but sort of stored away in an underground parking lot here in Ottawa, and people forgot about it. 1969, they were rediscovered. What to do with them? There they stand. Truth and justice on either side of the front door of the Supreme Court of Canada. By the way, folks, if the Supreme Court was sitting today, you and I could still go in there and sit down, if there's a seat available, and listen to the case being heard. Now, a whole busload maybe couldn't go in, 35 or whatever it is, but just two of us or three of us, we could do that. And of course, with not sitting, same thing. By the way, the Dutch baby whose birth caused the Tulip Festival, baptized in that church right there. St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, 1943. She had about 25 honorary godparents. Some of them were here, some weren't. One of them was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the American president. Mackenzie King, Prime Minister of Canada at the time, was a huge admirer of not just Delano Roosevelt, but of America, He made, as Prime Minister, I think it was 17 trips to the United States. The American president did not come here once during that time. Okay, thanks, Jason. These buildings on your left coming up, this is the East Memorial Building, closest to you. Over in the distance is the West Memorial Building, built during the 1950s to house what was then a very large Department of Veterans Affairs. The two buildings joined by the Memorial Arch. You see it now on the left-hand side. That department has since gone to Eastern Canada, Prince Edward Island, in fact. So now these two buildings are used by a variety of government departments. On your right-hand side, ahead of you, the National Archives and Library of Canada, the depository of our literary and cultural heritage. If the Queen was here on the weekend, here's where you go to church. On the left-hand side, the old stone church, Christ Church Cathedral, home of the Incoming Bishop of Ottawa. Get beer after Jason, please. And go to the War Museum and stop at Women's. Oh, that blue car, yeah, I guess. Folks, straight ahead of you, see that red tin roof? Straight to your right? That's the roof of the old Thompson Perkins sawmill. Started sawing logs there in 1842. It's been decades since that took place there. It has sat empty. It's been a restaurant over the years and so on. Today, it is a Mill Street brew pub. Very popular, of course, if those walls could talk. Folks, in mills like the Thompson Perkins Mill, straight ahead of you under that red roof, more logs were sawed into wood or lumber around here in the 1850s and 60s than any place else on earth. This area was the lumbering capital of the world. Mills like this one abounded, and now only one is left. Right on the right-hand side with the red roof, there it is, Thompson Perkins Sawmill. Now the Mill Street Brew Pub. Ahead of you to your right-hand side across the field, the brand new practically National War Museum. Opened on May the 8th, 2005. 60 years to the day after the end of war in Europe, May the 8th, 1945. Some of you are coming here this afternoon, I would imagine. Lovely, lovely, very, very popular. Look at the little windows and the big copper fin. Here are the dots and dashes of Morse code.
Did you want to go here?
We're going to turn right. Thank you. They spell out lest we forget. And in French, n'oublions jamais. If you know Morse code, you know I'm not lying to you. Not too many do anymore. That big copper fin, by the way, points directly across the field, out back behind you, the Peace Tower at Parliament Hill, symbolizing the connection between decisions made on the Hill and the War Museum right here. The big summer exhibit here is war art, particularly World War I war art. This is the 100th anniversary of the opening of the break of World War I, 1914, and so much of the museum exhibits this summer center around that sad event. Speaking of that, folks, if you go there this afternoon, I know you go to the Memorial Hall. There's one thing in the Memorial Hall, the grave marker of the unknown soldier whose body lies downtown beside the National War Memorial. On November the 11th, at 11 o'clock, if the sun is shining, it shines on that grave marker. That's the only time all year long. Yep. The Memorial Hall. The words known unto God that appear on that grave marker, that creation of Rudyard Kipling, the famous British poet. He and his wife spent the last years of their lives trying to find the body of their son, John Kipling, who disappeared during the Battle of the Somme. They were not successful. But Kipling penned those words, "No one unto God." Kipling's body has since been found by an Ottawa man, Norm Christie, who was at one point chairman of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. I took a tour of the battlefield of World War I with my first pension check with him back in 1997. A sobering trip. You got such a view of what war is all about. You know, what do I know about it? But a little bit more than reading about it anyhow. Folks, all these mills here, some of the date. This on your right-hand side is an old cardboard factory, empty for decades. In true Canadian fashion, we're letting it fall down. Here to your left are the Chaudière Falls. The waterfalls that supply all the power to the shingle factories and sawmills that used to be all around here. They still provide some of the water power here, about 2% of Ottawa's hydroelectricity. We now find ourselves out of Ottawa. We are in Gatineau, Quebec. This great big red brick complex ahead of us, the big gray one over there to your right, are federal government office buildings, established here during the tenure of Pierre Trudeau, who wanted to establish more firmly in our political life the French fact, you see. So these buildings that up to that time would have been built on the Ottawa side of the river, were built here instead. Here's where thousands of federal public servants toil away on our behalf. Folks, that gray stone building to your left-hand side, the old stone building there, an old E.B. Eddy building dating back to 1832, I think, 1833 maybe. E.B. Eddy. You folks are my age more or less. You remember Eddy matches? Of course. When I was a kid here in Eastern Ontario, you couldn't buy a wooden stick match that E.B. Eddy had not made. To me as a kid, Eddy and matches went together like Santa Claus and Christmas, you know. Ezra Butler Eddy came here from Massachusetts, 1854. All he had was his wife and his ambition, nothing else. He went from lumberyard to lumberyard all around here, 1850s, picking up scrap lumber and making matches by hand. By 1900, he was the biggest maker of matches in the British Empire. Making, in factories around here, folks, 30 million matches a day. When I first read that, I said, that can't be true. In 1900, you couldn't make 30 million of anything. But I've gone to the archives and checked it out, and it's true. He employed thousands of his mills around here. E.B. Eddy. He switched to pulp and paper after his match industry, did start to fade with cigarette lighters and so on, became a little bit more common. His last pulp and paper mill here in Ottawa stands right now where the Museum of Civilization stands. In fact, when I moved here in 1970, the paper mill was there. And of course, no signs around here. Nothing to tell us that Ottawa, for the first, not 100 years, first 60 years of existence, was nowhere near a political town, not at all. We were an industrial city. Lumber, primarily.
Taking a walk in.
Anybody in for a washroom break? Anybody would enjoy a washroom break? Be good, maybe? Oh, okay, one or two. Yeah, I think there'll be more when we start. Yeah, we will, Jason. Maybe ahead of the school bus. Thanks for thinking of that. We'll make a quick stop here, and I know some of you might be coming back here this afternoon as well. You may really think that when I tell you this. This is the most visited museum in Canada. Not just this area, in Canada. Some almost 2 million a year come here. So right here on your right-hand side. The Museum of Civilization, and last year they changed its name. If you want to be correct these days, this is the Canadian Museum of History. The Canadian Museum of History. Mr. Harper, his government decided that they were going to give it a new mandate, and changing the name was the first one. Folks, if you want to bring your cameras, I can show you one of the most photographed pictures, or photographed scenes, taken by tourists in this area as well. My watch says 10:15, 10:16 to be exact. Back in the bus, what do you say by 10:45, the latest Cardinal and Alberta Métis. And in all his works, he wants to show the influence of natural forces, the wind through the trees, the waves of the ocean. That's where those lines come from. If you've been to Washington, D.C. and seen the newly opened Canadian Embassy there, it looks just like this building because it had the same architect built this car to it. So Jason is taking us back into Ottawa and back into Ontario. We'll leave French Quebec behind. We're going to use the old railroad bridge. The two tracks ran on the road that we're now going to use. So to your right is the pedestrian walkway that they added after they converted the bridge from rail to vehicles. And on your left is the extra lane they added for vehicular traffic today. Look to your right hand side, you see the upside down canoe that makes up the roof of the museum, part of it. And ahead of you to your right, the good view of the Centre Block of Parliament. As I said, the closer you get, the more impressive it is. And look to your right at about 1 o'clock. The first 8 locks of the Rideau Canal system.
I don't see no boats in them.
No, I don't. Lifting boats up or lowering boats down to 95 feet that separate the river from the canal. Now straight ahead of us, the National Art Gallery, that glass tower I pointed out from the back of the Museum of Civilization. Soon on the left-hand side, houses the largest collection of Canadian art in the world, some 40,000 pieces. Moses Safdie was the architect. Likes to work in glass, as you can tell. And the yard here is represents the Canadian Shield, the rock, the scrub pine, and so on. To your right, more tulips. This is Majors Hill Park, a secondary site of the Tulip Festival. And ahead of you to your right, across the street, is the Embassy of the United States. You want to go to the United States, jump the fence that surrounds the embassy, and that's where you'll be. That's what the laws say. And you probably would be if you did that before you got back here again. Go with a concrete barricade in the street, placed here after 9/11 for additional security. You lost a lane of traffic for that. And likewise on this side, as you look to your right as well. The only American embassy in the world to be opened by a sitting president. Mr. Clinton did that in 1999. Ahead to your right, across the street, is the oldest church in Ottawa. Something I mentioned to some of you a little while ago. This is Notre Dame Basilica, home to our French-speaking Roman Catholics. There's a church on this site since 1827.
All the spiders uncovered.
Yeah. On your left, of course, the National Gallery. And one of the outdoor exhibits is the huge bronze spider, Mamo, or Mum. Notre Dame Basilica is an active church, of course, but is also a heritage structure and very much a part of a tourist circle here. We'd stop here if the road was not under construction on our tour, on our regular city tour, you know. On your right is the old LaSalle Academy, where Christian Brothers taught for about 100 years, until the 1970s. Today it is used by the federal government. Coming up on your right-hand side is the newly opened Embassy of Kuwait. Here it is now. If you want to go to Kuwait, jump that fence.
Yeah. They don't get much room to here, do they?
What about a faith in bus drivers, Jason? I like this. What used to be on that site before they built the embassy there? Well, it was empty lot for years. But before that, it was a gas station.
Oh my God, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Here to your left is the old War Memorial. Ahead to your left is the Royal Canadian Mint. We don't make our money there. Our coins are minted in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Our paper bills are printed elsewhere in Ottawa. Today they manufacture commemorative coins and medallions. To your right is the old Ottawa General Hospital. It is no longer a hospital. Today it is the biggest centre of palliative care in Canada. But it's still run by the Sisters of Charity, who opened it in the 1840s. Back to the Mint on your left-hand side, the Vancouver Olympics 2 or 3 years ago, the gold, silver, and bronze medals we won there, or that were awarded there, were made right here in the Mint on your left-hand side. These buildings on your right-hand side are not being demolished. They're heritage buildings, so they're being moved to make way for a wider Sussex Drive. The embassy on your right-hand side is that of Japan. Embassy of Japan. We're traveling the world, not leaving Ottawa. We've got about 130, 140 embassies here. As you go through this intersection ahead of us, to your right, you'll see a small yellow brick building down there, the High Commission of Malaysia. And on your immediate right, the Embassy of Saudi Arabia. The big white building beside the Saudi Embassy on your right is the houses the activities of the Aga Khan Foundation. The Aga Khan, leader of the world's 15 million Ismaili Muslims. The mayor of Calgary, Alberta, Naheed Nenshi, is an Ismaili Muslim. The Aga Khan is an honorary Canadian, one of only 4 or 5 people to have that distinction. He was an honorary pallbearer at Pierre Trudeau's funeral. Huge admirer of him. This big red brick building or brown brick building on your right-hand side houses the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. The Lester B. Pearson building. High-level trade delegations come here and international conferences take place here on a regular basis. Foreign Affairs, International Trade. On your left, our National Research Council building. The robotic arm used in the NASA Space Shuttle, the Canadarm. That technology was developed in part in this building here a few decades ago. As well as the heart pacemaker by Dr. Jack Hops a generation or so ago. And now Jason has taken us across the Rideau River, not the canal, but the river. And on an island in the middle of the river is one building, here it comes now on your right-hand side, our old City Hall, now used by the federal government. And it opened in 1958 as our City Hall. It was Ottawa's first air-conditioned building. And now the part of Ottawa we're coming into is called the Edinburgh, because it was all laid out by a Scottish stonemason, Thomas Mackay, who came in the 1820s to help build the Rideau Canal. He brought with him his large family, 16 children. Look at the names of the streets on your right-hand side. They're named after some of his kids. Stanley, John, and so on.
Did you want to go around?
Well, no, we'll just go by. Thanks, Jason. He had to build a big house for his large family. That large in those days, 1830s, he called it Rideau Hall. That was customary at the time. It had 11 rooms. Big for those days when most people lived in just 1 or 2 rooms. Who lives in there on the left-hand side? The French ambassador on the top floor of the French embassy. Here, folks, speaking left-hand side, here we come. Jason is such a professional. 24 Sussex Drive coming up. Since 1950, the official home of the Prime Minister of Canada. Here it is now coming into view. 24 Sussex Drive. A lot of Canadians don't know that has been our Prime Ministerial residence since 1950. Where did they live before that? In their own homes. In their own private homes. Mackay's old home, some 200 years old now, or just about, Rideau Hall. The Mackays have long gone. Since 1867, it's been the official residence of the Governor-General of Canada. David Johnston lives here at the moment. On your right-hand side, the High Commission of South Africa. A High Commission is an embassy of a Commonwealth country. Thank you, Jason. And now Jason is taking us out of New Edinburgh and into Ottawa's most well-to-do community, Rockcliffe. There to your right-hand side is the gateway to Rideau Hall, some 100 acres of land on which the building sits, open to the public. Yes, folks, Rockcliffe is where most of Ottawa's more successful businessmen and women live, and would have her ambassadors have their official homes here as well. They say there are some streets in Rockcliffe where every house in the street has been assessed for tax purposes at over $1 million. But they don't want tour buses visiting Rockcliffe. That's why we can't go in. They've got a bylaw. which says you can't. You can't have garage sales either.
Oh, jeez.
And you can't have sidewalks nor curbs. You'll see that momentarily. Yeah, they want their streets to be rural country lanes. Quiet, reserved. If you live in Rockcliffe, if you want something, you generally speaking manage to get it. Politically speaking, at least. No tour buses. We're gonna just kind of bend the rule just a little bit. So up ahead here, as the road swings to the left, you look to the right now, right straight ahead of you. Soon on your right, you'll see some of the streets. No curbs, no sidewalks. Just quiet country roads. We'll turn right here, Jason, and then a quick left, please. It's too bad we can't go in because this is a lovely, lovely, lovely part of the city. If you've driven here by car, maybe you've come here. If you haven't, you come back. Please make a point of it. Some lovely old homes. Right straight ahead of you is the official home of the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates. Right in there. His neighbor in this low wooden house is the ambassador of Denmark. These next two are privately owned. And then you find yourself looking at the gateway to the entrance or the road that leads to the residence of the ambassador of the United States. Here it is now on your right hand side. You can't see the home from here, but this is the property. The ambassador lives in the bigger of the two green cabins there. You'll catch a glimpse of his home up around the turn here when Jason comes to a stop before he turns right. You'll catch a glimpse of the upper floors of the ambassador's home. And those of you on the left-hand side of the road that probably won't be able to see it now can see it coming back. So don't panic, okay? So here's a stop sign, and Jason will stop there before he turns right. And looking up on the high cliff, you'll see the upper floors of the American ambassador's home. Yeah. I see the flag now, the American flag. Right, when Jason pulls over onto the road, you'll see, you'll get a better look at it. Imagine his bedroom view in the morning. He gets up and milks it over the river here to your left. In American ambassadorial circles, they say this is the nicest house in the world for American ambassadors. The leader of the opposition, his official home, Stornoway, is in Rockcliffe as well. Michael Copeland, I call him Canada's Bill Gates, because as Gates founded Microsoft, Copeland founded Corel Draw, that kind of thing. He and his wife built a $10 million, 20,000 square foot home there about 15 years ago. His annual property taxes are just a little over $250,000. One of several homes he owns here in the Ottawa area. Now we're making a quick side trip here to the RCMP stables. Home to the musical ride. This is where the horses are stabled, and it's where the Mounties who ride them come to take part in the musical ride. A 25 to 30 minute show of expert horsemanship and exquisite maneuvering, all choreographed to music. One of the few things that we Canadians do, I think, with a little bit of panache, you know, a little bit of oomph. Americans kind of even start a ball game with color guards and bugles and flags. We in Canada are not quite like that. We tend to kind of sit on our hands and show me. But the musical ride, you've seen it, a very colorful presentation, I think. Yep. 32 horses, 32 men or women, full-fledged Mounties. Right now they're in Quebec. They'll come back to this area for Canada Day, a week on either side. Last week of June, first week of July. Then they leave for their summer tour in Alberta this summer, coming back here in mid to late September.
This one here?
Yeah. Where they'll train all winter long for next year's presentation. There are horses here now even though the rise in Quebec, there are about 60 horses here, about 100 when everybody's here. 60 that you see here now are horses being trained for future rides, younger horses. Yeah, recruits, yeah. They have a 3-year training program. And the horses that don't pass their exams are shot. Oh, okay, they're not. No, they're not shot. They're auctioned off. Every 2nd October, they have a big, huge auction sale here on the ground. And the average price paid for a horse is about $25,000. We'll turn left here. Yeah, the breeding farm is in Packham, about 35 minutes west of here. Small village. They're brought here when they're 3 years old. Trained for further 3 years. So at the age of 6, if they make it onto the ride, that's where they go for the rest of their working lives, barring injury or sickness or whatever, you know.
How long is that?
10, 12 years, on average. Some longer, some not as long. Sometimes the horses are too big. They're not big enough. They're the wrong color. They have too much white on them, or whatever the case might be. Or they're too skittish, or not quite smart enough. And so those horses don't make the ride. They're auctioned off, or they're sold or given away, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they gave one to Queen.
They did, yeah. That horse probably would have made the ride, though.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I would.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, all these buildings are owned by the Mounties. Some of them are used, though, by other entities. For example, on the left-hand side, this tall red brick building, it's used by the Canada Police College. And so police officers come here to fine-tune police techniques, learn new ones. The Canada Police College. You see Mounties here, but you also see police officers from really all over the world, although primarily North America. Americans are amazed to find that Mounties drive cars. And they look for the red coat, the red jacket and so on, and the Stetson. Sergeant Preston, that kind of thing, you know. So Jason, we got to the end of the street, turn left, and then back into your parking spot there. I think it's the easiest way. So folks, the stable is just ahead of us here. I'm going to go ahead and check. We don't have a reservation, and so we may not be able to get in. But I don't see any buses around, so we might. This is worth it. It's about a 35-minute tour, and it's free. And as I said, I enjoy it. I like it. I think it's worthwhile. So I hope you guys will enjoy it too if we get in. If we don't get into the actual stable, there's a boutique there. We can buy some trinkets, Canadiana or the Mounties. And there's a mounting museum just behind that. You can go there if you want, but I'll let you guys fight that out as I'm in there finding out whether to get a tour now, okay?
Use your good looks with the charm on them.
Oh, well,
Take it over natural.
then we're lost.
They're from Eastern Canada.
I'll tell them where you're from. That might do it, eh?
Yeah,
All right. Let's just see.
Want the seniors discount?
Yeah, we're all seniors.
That's great.
Good man, Jason. Thank you.
Three squirrels in the road center. Can't get much more
Yeah, we never
discount.
steal horses.
Come back downtown.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but
Well, I'd say about 8 or 9 years ago, I was driving one of those double-deckers out here, my first tour of the day, 9 or 10 o'clock, whatever it was, and there wasn't too many people on it, but there was a couple from Texas, and all the way out here, the guy kept saying, I want to meet a Mountie. I want to meet a real live Mountie. And of course, he had this Stetson and a red jacket and so on in mind. We got here, and he was quite disappointed, but we were parked right back there where we were, and I saw a Mountie walking across the or they thought it was a Mountie walking across the parking lot. He had riding boots on, you know. And so I beckoned to him and said, could you go over and say hello to my friend from Texas? He wants to meet a Mountie. And the guy said, well, I'll be happy to do that, but I'm not from Texas. I'm not a Mountie. I'm from Ohio. He was here taking a 6-week course at the Canada Police College in mounted policing, you see. So, but he didn't say hello to his Texan friend. But you know, there was a Mountie did come to the bus, a female Mountie. I think my Texan friend was a little disappointed. He wanted to see a real Mountie, you know. But, yeah. I wasn't part of that either. No, sir. No, sir. Surprisingly, mounted females were allowed to be mounties only in 1973. Eh?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that incredible? Incredible, yeah. And our neighbors were for a long time. Well, he was a Mountie from Saskatchewan. They've since gone back there. But when he became a Mountie, as a young Mountie, he couldn't get married because he would be let go. Yeah, yeah. As you know, for the first 2 or 3 years in the forest, he couldn't get married. He'd lose his job.
Why? Were they scared that the wife would make him gain too much weight?
Well, who knows? It was not. Whatever was not a good reason, but
Yeah.
indeed.
It has to do with the location. Not necessarily to do with the location.
Yeah, probably had a lot to do with that, of course. Yeah. Why didn't the same rule apply then to ambassadors and government personnel and military? And this kind of goes on, eh? But yeah, there's no defense. No defense of it. This bike path right ahead of us here there's about 250 kilometers of such paths in and around Ottawa and outside the city, over the Gatineau Hills, across the river there to your right-hand side. In the cooler fall months, it's September and October, I like to bet people in the bus that before we get back downtown, we'll see a walker or a runner or a bicyclist on this path. I usually win. I don't take the money though. They spend enough. And there's your right, folks, through the trees. You guys glimpses from time to time of the original Trans-Canada Highway. Native Canadians have used this for centuries untold to move around from parts of eastern Canada, mostly Georgian Bay and the Great Lakes and so on, by river and so on, into central Canada. European explorers did the very same thing. Down this river in the 1800s, shipped canoe loads of furs by the tons upon tons upon tons. And of course, I said 1800s, maybe the 1700s, because during the 1800s, logs were floated downriver. They only stopped that in the 1970s, 40 years ago, when they discovered the damage they were doing to the river's ecosystem. Today, it is absolutely pleasure boaters, that kind of thing. There's no commercial use. You see people fishing from it, and in the summer and wintertime, you see ice fishing huts out there. I would not make a steady diet, though, of the fish caught here. But they say it's okay to eat some. There's Quebec. And kind of ahead, right over my head there, you see the Gatineau Hills on the horizon. You'd be there in about 45 minutes from here by car. You see there's a radio tower on the horizon over there. That's one of 3 or 4 alpine ski areas right there as well. One chairlift brings up right to the base of that tower. When you get off the chair, you turn quickly right or left, or you ski right into that tower.
Oh, yeah.
And ahead to your right-hand side, you see another river emptying into the Ottawa River. That is the Gatineau River. You on the left-hand side of the bus. Coming up now is a better look at the American Ambassador's home. With the green roof right there, yep. Maybe you stop here, Jason. But folks, Jason's going to stop just ahead here at this lookout. It's close by. You can get out if you wish to get a very much better look at the American Ambassador's home now behind us. Take a picture maybe. Or here to your right hand side, a picture of the scenic picture of the Gatineau River, go back across the river there and so on. We'll stop maybe 5 or 6 minutes and back on the left and away we go, okay?
Yeah. A little bit of size from the maybe the plastic off. Are you there, Miss Muffin?
Yes. We'll see.
My gosh, this is a nice store. Isn't it lovely?
It's gorgeous here.
Oh, it truly is. You enjoying your dinner?
Oh, just beautiful, yeah. Very nice. I haven't been to Ottawa before.
Oh, so you're getting the guys, you're getting to see lots of it.
My last tour at Fort
Ted.
all through along. I have 4 hours.
Oh, good to see you getting off the bus, Ted. You're feeling better. I'm so glad.
The rooms are nice there.
Lady died. Lady died. Work also for a bunch
The
of
problem that we have now is that the bus cost is not good. We used to always park the bus, which is doing all that work.
Nancy, see for a second. Let's just make sure we know what we're doing here. So I like we back downtown. Normally like to know like you and Jason can handle, so I don't care.
If anybody wants to go to the hotel, kind of go there first, get rid of it, then we can.
In terms of ease of doing it, it makes sense in terms of like we're locality. Here,
The bus is off, Nancy. I just started it up. Can't pull down your costume.
Cool us down a little bit. It's a warm day out there. We got to. Okay, so we've all returned. Just going to as we leave here, we're going to offer just another suggestion. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll talk a little louder. We're going to leave here now, and we're going to drive by the Byward Market. We're going to drive by it. We're going to show you the layout. Okay. Now, if you choose to take the whole afternoon off, and you'd like to go to the market for the remainder of the afternoon and the Rideau Center, your shopping opportunity, then that's you can do that. If you like to go to the hotel and take the all afternoon off, then we can do that. But now, for those who like to go to the War Museum, we can go there now. And there's a cafeteria there for your noon hour lunch. If you choose, you don't want to go to the War Museum, but only to the Museum of Civilization over in Gatineau, then you will stay on this coach, and you won't go to the War Museum, and you go to the Gatineau Museum, the Museum of Civilization, which is also a cafeteria there, so you can have your lunch there as well. And then of course, let's see, we're kind of maybe making it a little bit more complicated for you, but for those who are going to the War Museum and would like to do also the Civilization Museum, you can definitely do 2 museums in one afternoon. You may not spend a whole lot of time in each one, but it's very workable. And those who like to go to the Byward Market to one of the museums, either museum, and then spend the latter part of the afternoon at the market. It's hard to do 3 things. You can do 2, but it's hard to do 3. A museum, you can do 2 museums, you can do a museum and Byward Market, but it's hard to do 2 museums and the market. So that sort of thing. You think about that a little bit, and we'll, as we go to each stop, we'll make note of where everyone's at, and we'll recap on what time we'll be picking you up at each spot. just let us know what you like, and we're gonna do it.
Okay. Yes, of course. You can walk from the hotel to the Byward Market. Yeah, also the market to your hotel. You certainly can walk that. Maybe a 15, 20-minute walk. And a very nice walk, very scenic. On your right-hand side, one last time, 24 Sussex Drive. 24 Sussex Drive. And on your right-hand side, still, our Prime Minister's neighbor, the French ambassador. He lives on the top floor of the French embassy, right here. Before 1950, the Prime Ministers of Canada lived in their own homes. Or they rented one or the other. Richard Bennett from down east, here to the 1930s, he rented 7 rooms at the Chateau Laurier during his time as Prime Minister. Here to your right is where the Rideau River drops about 30 feet down into the Ottawa River. Those falls reminded European explorers on the river out there of curtains. And the French word for curtain is le rideau. And that's where the word rideau comes from. Right, you can turn left if you want. We'll go around it. On your right hand side, the National Research Council of Canada, as I said earlier. So folks, on our way now, we're on our way to the War Museum. That'll be our next stop, so to speak, to those of you who want to get off there. And we'll go by the market area, so that I'll point out to you where it is, and so that later on this afternoon or this evening, if you want, you can walk down to the market area from the hotel. That'd be a nice thing to do. A nice warm evening, it should be. And the market area is the tourist heart of the capital city. So lots of restaurants and outdoor cafes and bars and pubs and nightclubs and so on. And there are lots of street artists, and tonight there'll be rickshaw drivers and so on, ready to take your dollars and entertain you and so on. So it's a happening place in Ottawa.
King,
Yeah, King Edward, yeah. The Byward Market. The Byward, John By, Colonel By, the BW, and then Ward, A-W-R-D, Byward Market. Right past the little buses up there, Jason. Like any city, of course, Ottawa is divided politically into wards or districts, and the ward in which the market is found is called Byward, after John By, considered by many to be the father of Ottawa. But like I said earlier, they changed the name from Bytown to Ottawa in the mid-1800s. Remind me to tell you why that story or why that happened. This is a route that most tourists don't come. Give you a little bonus here. We'll turn right, Jason, on St. Patrick Street, which is not these lights, the next one. So. Yeah, we'll turn right here. We are turning right on St. Patrick Street. Guess where that name came from? Those 3,000 or 4,000 Irish immigrants brought over here to help dig the canal. Many of them settled here in Ottawa. And being Irish and predominantly Roman Catholic, one of the first things they did was build a church, Notre Dame Basilica, today. But they got that name, of course, as the French Canadians slowly became more numerous here, shoving the Irish out. They came and built this church here, St. Bridget's. If you're of Irish ancestry, you know that name is St. Bridget is as common as St. Patrick in terms of Irish lore and so on. This church is now closed. For the last 10, 12 years, it's the home of the Irish Society of Ottawa. This whole part of Ottawa is called Lower Town. It's so dominated by the Byward Market that most of us refer to as simply the market. But it's not really the market, that's only a small part of it. This is Lower Town. And you can kind of tell here, this is not, I guess it's okay, middle class, but it's not our well-to-do section. And 100 years ago, that was putting it kindly. This was an area that nobody respectable came. Seedy, run-down hotels, ramshackle buildings. The world's oldest profession flourished here. This was the place where lumberjacks coming in from their winter in the woods would come to spend all their money on whatever. You take your guess. But they poured a lot of money into this part of Ottawa, and today, as I said earlier, it is the tourist heart of the capital. But some of these homes here take you back many years. And all the original homes, which are really just cabins, have long gone, but for one. It's coming up ahead of you on the left-hand side. It's now preserved for history. It shows you the kind of building that dominated this part of Ottawa. Lower down, less well-drained. It tended to be swampy and particularly smelly in the summer and cold in the winter and so on. And this is where you lived if you couldn't afford to live in the wealthier neighborhood around Parliament Hill, where the lawyers and store owners and so on lived. Here's Notre Dame on your right-hand side, the back of it now. On your left, the last house. Looks like a little cabin, a little white one. 2 families would have used that for a living quarters, you see. The man who lived there, one of the families, did the carvings for Notre Dame Basilica. Because inside the church is all wood, all hand carved. But the power is black card, Jason. No, we're not. He's going to go back. We're going to have to go left. So here you now find us back by the National Gallery. Behind you on your right, ahead of you on your left-hand side, the American Embassy. Mr. Clinton opened it in 1999, as I said, and across the road from it, ahead on your right-hand side, is the oldest park in Ottawa, Major Seal Park, and one of the sites of our Tulip Festival. You can walk here from your hotel in 15, 20 minutes, slowly, 20, 25 minutes. And folks, the Byward Market is here to your left-hand side, on the other side of the American Embassy. Look down here, between these 2 big buildings to your left, you get a glimpse of the market area. Right in there, the white awning and so on. There it is, right in there. They say you get a breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a different restaurant every day for 3 months. And now you've seen a restaurant twice.
Where? I have to get off here and walk back now. I've already gone 2 hours.
Okay, for those who are going to leave us here at the market now, we're going to, this is the staircase right here to your left. Jason's going to pull over right here. You just simply need to, okay, no, right here is another staircase right here. Okay, there's a staircase right here. And that takes you right down to the market. And if you're at the market, then I also may have to ask, but that links you to Rideau Center. Now, I'm going to give you all a phone number, give you my phone number, so I don't need to worry if you need me, any question. My phone number is 506, we'll jot it down. So those who are leaving us now, you're going to be here for the afternoon, and we'll be back here at 5:15, I say. So we'll be back here at 5:15. Anyone that, because the Museum of Civilization closed at 5, will pick up there last, and then we'll come here. You have your supper here. We're going to be right here. So my number, 506 433 0907. That's 506 433 0907. And if you're not here at 5:15, then I know that you've walked back. Okay? Okay. Have fun, girls who are leaving us here. Leave your items on the couch if you like, of course. And
where you're getting off, folks, this is Mackenzie Street. Mackenzie Street. There's a Charlotte right there. So you'll meet Jason this afternoon at the time that Nancy gave you. Mackenzie Street across the Charlotte.
now, would any... Yeah, I'll make note of who's where.
Getting off in the traffic, so very careful.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, tell her the last stop will be the hotel, I guess. Okay. I'll be here for a while. So.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Right here, thanks, Terry. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
You want to go right behind me.
Right here. Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Right here at the yellow meter, dear. The yellow meter, that means the bus stop.
Not stop.
You'll see the
Okay.
yellow meter.
Someone.
Yes.
Okay. Now, for those who like to go to the hotel and stay there for the remainder of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, then you just stay on the coach and we'll take you back to the hotel after we do our museum drop-offs. Okay. Okay.
More getting off?
Okay. Okay. So remain here fine, dear. Yeah. Okay. So girls, you'll maybe here 5:15. You're not sure.
Second and Nancy.
Yeah.
5:15, did you say?
5:15.
Right here at Mackenzie Street. Right across the river.
See you later, ladies. Right around the front. Sorry, go around the call.
Where are you guys going?
So we're on our way now to the War Museum. From the market area, from where you are right now, you know the market area is just one block to your left on this side of these buildings. You walk there tonight, you walk up this street right here, returning now. Right up in front of the old train station on your left-hand side. Your hotel on your right. Walk over towards 3 blocks, you come to Cooper Street. Your hotel's on Cooper Street. Walk right down that street there, from the market area to your left. 3-4 blocks. You'll cross Slater Street, Laurier, Lisgar, and then Cooper. So 3 or 4 blocks. Turn left in Cooper. Your hotel's right there. Well, 1 block down. There's a provincial courthouse, that big gray concrete thing, and that's that's hiding your hotel practically. So you're very close to the market area, and to Parliament Hill here ahead of you, and so on. So you are well located. A lot of Canadians have come to see Parliament Hill here today, it seems. Enjoying the ambiance of the place. I was here one morning last week about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't believe people flocking onto the hill. You would think they're all going to a revival meeting or a political convention, and it started at 9 o'clock. It was just, it was just, yeah, great. It was awful. Not awful. Amazing to me. If I was young, I'd say awesome. To have your statue in Parliament Hill, you've got to meet 1 of 3 requirements. You've got to be a deceased prime minister. No, I'm sure you're dead first. Don't do anything bad. So a deceased prime minister, a reigning monarch, or a father of the Confederation, like what's the guy's name? Thomas Jefferson McGee. Okay. If you're not one of those 3 things, you don't get your statue in Parliament Hill. With one exception, the famous 5 women who fought all the way to the Privy Council of the British Parliament in the late 1920s to win for you and me the right of Canadian women to vote in federal elections, called the Persons Case. Because constitutionally, women in Canada were not recognized as persons until they won their case. Not until 1949 did our Supreme Court become the final court of appeal. But only since then, 49, has it been that. Before that, we could go to England, the British Parliament. And those 5 women did exactly that. Their leader, Nellie McClung, is famous for her mantra, never explain, never apologize, never retreat. Just go and get the damn thing done. ask that question. That's good. I don't know for sure, but I think she was. But I'm not sure. One of her colleagues was Emily Murphy. I will. That's a good question. But Emily Murphy is reported to have said over and over, whenever I don't know whether to fight or not, I fight. Jason, you know where you're going. You're going to go straight through and so on.
I think I'll pick up here. 2 o'clock.
Whatever you're doing. Oh, is that 2 hours with your lunch?
So now this is our little war museum stop, and so when I will go with you and get your admission ticket, and then you can enjoy your cafeteria lunch, and then have a wonderful time here. Now, those who are leaving us here, are you interested also in going to the Civilization Museum? Yes, you'd like to do both museums. Okay, very good. Some yes, some no. Okay. So then, for those who like to go to the War Museum, if I say 2:15, would that give you enough time for your lunch and your time here, or 2:15? Okay. So we'll divide the afternoon right in two. And for those who are going not to the War Museum, but yes to the Civilization Museum now, then you remain on the coach, and we'll drive you right directly over there. Okay, so we'll meet you at 2:15. And the cafeteria is a very fast operation, so you don't need to lose a whole lot of time there. I might suggest that if you all go there first, however, you might get caught up in a little lineup. But okay, so very good. So we'll go with you. I'll go with you. Get your ticket. Very good. So we'll go right in this door right here on my left-hand side, and we'll get your tickets and be back at 2:15. So for those who are going to the War Museum now and not the Civilization Museum, then we will be taking you to the market following this.
2:15?
National War Museum.
Yeah, we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see ya.
Whatever needs instructions to do. Can you hear Rita? Same door can pick up at 2:15. Whatever needs instructions to do.
Yes.
I do that because some of these change and stuff. See you, ladies and gentlemen. See you later. Out there. Yeah. Where you going, Ted? Yep. Thanks, Jason. Brother here yet? I'm not sure.
your ship, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you changed your mind. You're really going to go, are you?
Yeah.
You decide to go?
We're going to have to hurry in there so he knows you're coming. Does it happen sometimes?
Yeah. See, sometimes you usually can buy a combo ticket from here and both
Of
museums.
course, yeah, yeah.
Won't be able to do that because he doesn't know who's going where, right?
So you folks are going back to your hotel.
Yes,
Check,
we are.
right?
Yeah. Then we're gonna walk down.
All right.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to the hotel or the dinner destination?